Now that we've written our first VEX statement, let's move on to another fundamental concept in VEX coding: attributes. In Houdini, attributes are variables that store data for geometry, such as position, color, or custom values. Attributes are declared and accessed in VEX using the symbol before their identifier, which makes it easy to identify them in the code. For example, @test refers to an attribute called test. Declaring an attribute in VEX involves specifying its data type and identifier. However, unlike traditional programming, you don't need to explicitly define attributes in your code, as a default value will be assigned when you declare an attribute in VEX. Additionally, you only need to specify the attribute's data type the first time you use it in a Wrangle node. After that, it can be accessed using just the symbol, without needing to redefine its type. Here's a simple example. To declare an attribute, you would type @myAttrib. This tells Houdini that the attribute myAttrib exists. However, since no value has been assigned, it is given a default value, typically 0. To define it, you would assign a value like this: @myAttrib equals 10. Now, myAttrib attribute has been assigned a value of 10 for all points or primitives, depending on the Wrangle's geometry scope. In Houdini, it's time to declare and define some attributes. Drop a Wrangle node just below the rubber toy. Let's start by declaring an attribute called pScale. Type F at pScale, where F stands for float, which is the data type, and pScale is the identifier of the attribute. We'll cover data types in the next video. Take a look at the viewport. Nothing has changed. However, if you check the attribute spreadsheet, you'll see a new attribute called pScale has been added with a default value of 0.0, which is typical for float values. The attribute spreadsheet is probably the most important window of Houdini. Now, let's define an attribute. Type I at ID equals 1. This creates a new attribute called ID and assigns it a value of 1. Like pScale, there is no visual feedback in the viewport with this basic setup. Let's now define an attribute that we can directly visualize in the viewport. Type at CD equals 0.5. The rubber toy will turn gray because CD is a vector attribute representing color. By assigning the value 0.5 to each component of the vector, the result is a mid-gray color. It's important to note that attributes cannot be deleted directly in VEX. If you need to remove an attribute, you'll have to use a separate delete attribute node in Houdini's node network.